Capital Views is sponsored by Northrim Bank, Alaska Oil and Gas Association, ConocoPhillips, and Linden.
Hi, I'm Tim Bradner with Alaska Legislative Digest, and welcome to Capitol Views. And welcome today to Curtis Thayer, the Executive Director of the Alaska Energy Authority. Uh, Curtis, AEA is in the middle of a ton of energy issues, and that's energy is very much in our minds these days. And I wanted to ask you particularly about a project that is kind of near term in supplying power in South Central Alaska, and offsetting natural gas is getting more short. Um, this is the Dixon diversion. Could you tell us a little bit about the project and what it's about and where you are with it?
Yeah, thank you. The Dixon diversion is actually on the Bradley footprint where Bradley Lake Hydro Project is. It's currently a 120 megawatt facility. And what the Dixon diversion is diverting water from a receding glacier and lake 5 miles, do a directional drill through a mountain and put that additional water into Bradley Lake and raising the dam 14 feet. And what that will allow is that will increase the capacity of Bradley by 50%. And that will displace 1.5 billion gallons, or excuse me, 1.5 billion billion cubic feet of natural gas here in Cook Inlet. So it's a big issue to divert or displace that natural gas, and this project can do it, and it's shovel ready.
And Curtis, is that 1.5 billion a year? Natural
Yes,
gas?
1.5 billion cubic feet a year. Mhm.
That's pretty important. How where are you with the project now? Is it near construction or near financing or?
Well, where we're at right now with it is we have been working with FERC since 2022, and we're going to be filing with FERC the application for an amendment to our license in January. We've been doing geotechnical and environmental work on it over the last summer. We'll be doing it again this summer, but there are no showstoppers as far as moving forward. It is supported by the utilities, and it is something that we can do, and it's easy enough to do. It's just the manpower and the timing of doing it. Little interesting side note is to actually do the directional drilling itself is 6 to 8 months. Our permit getting through the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is 12 to 18 months. So it's easier to drill through 5 miles of a mountain than it is through some paperwork in Washington, D.C.
That's interesting. Uh, how soon could it be on, Curtis?
Our goal is once we file with FERC, which is January 26th, we assume they'll make a decision in 28, and then we can have construction done within 2 years with water flowing in 2030. Our personal hope is that we can get it done sooner, providing that we get the FERC okay to do it.
Well, this is important timing because the gas contracts for Hillcorp Energy's gas contracts with the utilities are sort of expiring starting in 2028, and then one of the most important ones goes to 2032. So your timing is very good. Part of this, Curtis, is the ability to move power through the transmission line, which is aging, and connecting that new power from Bradley Lake up to Anchorage and Points North. Where are we with upgrading that aged power line?
There are actually two projects ongoing. The one, what we call the existing transmission line, is in some places 60 years old. AEA owns 40 miles of line from basically Sterling to Quartz Creek and right outside of Hope. And we spent part of this winter upgrading that line. It's going to be a 4-year project because we have to take Bradley offline, do the work, and bring Bradley back online. And obviously, we want to make sure we maximize the water out of Bradley. And so that work is already being done. And actually, if you've driven along by Girdwood, you've seen Chugach take down their old 115 lines and increase those to 230. So they're doing that work the same time we're doing our work, and we're going to marry up and have these upgraded transmission lines, because we can upgrade Bradley, but without upgrading the transmission lines, it would not be worth it. And then the secondary thing is we have what we call the GRIP, or doing a high voltage direct current line underneath Cook Inlet from Nikiski over to Beluga, which gives us the redundancy off of the Kenai Peninsula. And that was a federal grant of $206.5 million. It requires a match of 206.5, but it's a $413 million project. So when you look at Dixon, Bradley, when you look at Dixon and the GRIP, and you look at the SQ upgrade we're doing, that's $800 million worth of work on the Kenai Peninsula that is currently or will be started within the next 2 years. And it's going to require 5,000 construction jobs. So there's a lot of activity going on here in South Central. One thing to keep in mind is 17% of Bradley power goes to Fairbanks. So it affects everybody on the rail belt.
The submarine cable, have you got to the point where you're pre-ordering components for that? I understand there's some long lead time items connected with that project.
Correct. We have not ordered it yet. It's an 8-year project, and we're in our first year of it. So right now we're doing preliminary engineering and routing. And then based on that information, that's going to tell us, what we need to order, size of cable we need to order. But we are in conversations with makers of that kind of cable. There's only a handful around the country, around the world, really. And so we're in conversations with them right now, but we've just not ordered it. We'll probably order it within the next 2 to 3 years. And then it's going to take 2 or 3 years to do while we're doing our environmental studies.
This is important, Curtis, because it gives us an additional loop in getting power to Anchorage. Instead of through the older power line through the Kenai Peninsula, we can go west and around up by Matsu. But how about getting to Fairbanks? I mean, that's the second part of the upgrade of the existing. It's called the Alaska Intertie north of Fairbanks.
Correct. Alaska Energy Authority, we do own the Alaska Intertie, which is from Willow to Healy. And at Healy, there's double lines going to Fairbanks. And so the second phase of this upgrade would be looking at upgrading the lines from Beluga all the way to Healy to give it a secondary route. And why that is so important is, again, we don't have the redundancy, and we have 5 military bases with no redundancy. And just this winter, we had an avalanche in Cantwell that a boulder almost took down one of our poles. And when I say pole, we're talking a structure that stands 200 feet in the air, and it has a huge dent in it that we're going to have to do a repair on it. But if it had hit it right, it would have not only knocked down that pole, but several poles, and we would not have power between Anchorage and Fairbanks. And so it's pretty critical that we develop this redundancy.
In doing that, though, I mean, that's going to require, we don't have an agreement for the federal government to pay for that yet. Can the utilities pay for it?
Yeah, correct. What we're doing is we're looking at different routing and cost estimates on that. We anticipate at this early stage that a line from a AC line, an overhead line, would be about $480 million. But right now, again, we're doing that, and then also looking if there continues to be federal opportunities for transmission line upgrades for infrastructure.
And Curtis, just going back to Bradley Lake for a minute, do you have a guesstimate of what the cost of that will be?
Bradley Lake is about $342 million is what our what our estimates are, and we've modeled that with a couple different. So we're right in that ballpark.
Is it assumed that the utilities will take that on like they did the original?
It is, because it would be a revenue bond. They would be buying power, and that power would be cheaper than imported natural gas. But yes, that's what the anticipation is. But there's a lot of people looking at wanting to invest in infrastructure, especially hydro projects. And so we're going to be working with the utilities and others to see what is the best mix for the ratepayer.
Yeah. Well, a lot of things, a lot of balls in the air, and you guys are certainly busy, and we're very concerned about this. So we certainly wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Curtis Thayer. Thanks for joining us, and we'll continue the conversation.
All right. Thank you.